What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? Welcome to Monday's episode. So we're coming off a little bit of a break for the 4th of July weekend. I was traveling, so we put up Kevin. I always mess with his last name the first time. Apollinario, I think is how you pronounce it, man. But it was a great interview. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to try to keep one in reserve in case we ever have to take another break, which I say that we do that like at least 2-3 times a year with timing's sake. But I got a lot of good interviews coming up. So definitely want you guys to continue to tune in. But without further ado, I give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. This article is actually from federalnewsnetwork.com, written by Kurt Sanger, and it's titled "Private Sector Must Proactively Accept White House's Invitations on Cybersecurity." So a few months back, I want to say it was like March timeframe, the White House, they wrote the National Cybersecurity Strategy, right? And so what it is it's a guidance for federal officials on how they're going to handle things when it comes to cybersecurity, right? So this current administration is doing very good when it comes to addressing cyber, and it could be out of necessity, right? They had COVID that made it one of those things where it was a necessity for them to kind of address this, but what they're trying to do here is they're trying to so the federal government realizes that there's a lot of innovation to be had when it comes to these private companies, right? So they want to get them on board. They want to let them have a seat at the table, but they're telling them get in early to have a seat at the table so you can help with some of these things that the federal government is going to do when it comes to working with the civilian sector, right? So they're going to have them dealing with some legal and regulatory things, and they're going to have them helping with different topics like development of regulations, protecting networks and systems, prioritizing those associated with critical infrastructure, which we've seen a lot of these last couple of years, right? People putting gas in bags and whatnot. We're not trying to go back to that, right? Criminal and national security investigations, information sharing, incident response, a bunch of things, right? There's a bunch of them to name, but they're trying to get them to come in and get a seat at the table, right? So I like that they're expanding on this, right? Because the national cybersecurity, what was it called? National Cybersecurity Strategy that they came up with, that initiative. They just came out with it this year, and it's not that long. I think it's only like 35 pages or something like that, but it goes into different things that they want to address going forward. And again, they know that the private sector is innovative, right? Now, mind you, in the private sector, they're more motivated by profit, right? Like for them to do things. And with the federal government, that's not the case. It's to provide for different, I don't want to say services, but I guess services, Department of Defense, Homeland Security, things of that nature, for protection of the American citizens, right? So, but they can still go hand in hand, right? So even though the federal government is not trying to make money, these companies have gone and done these things to keep themselves profitable that help and guide the same way, right? So I like that. I like that this is something that they reached out to them and did that, right? Like they could have just been like, all right, we're gonna do our own thing over here. You guys do your things over here, and we'll just make you, if you want to work with the federal government, which they have already. They said if you're gonna work with us, these are the things you need to do, right? Especially when it comes to critical infrastructure. We actually did a story on that. I can't remember the time frame. I don't know why, but it's a little over a month ago. I want to say maybe 5-6 weeks ago, something like that. We actually talked about it, but yeah, this is a good way to go about doing things, right? Like, so knowing that the federal government is not going to do everything in-house, right? Like we especially when it comes to different big companies out there, your Microsofts, your Amazons, like there is a lot of coordination that goes on with them when it comes to doing things for the federal government, that it's good to get them on board and ask them, hey, come get a seat at the table, like to help us with what is going on with everything going on in the world nowadays. Because again, if we've said it once, we've said it a million times, cyber warfare is where it's all going to kick off, right? So Ryan, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I also agree with you. And it is good to get in early, so to speak, so they can actually have some kind of influence. Because like you said, right now, it mostly goes to agencies first, like, hey, Homeland, hey, Department of Justice, like, what do we need to do to continue to protect our citizens, and then kind of build regulatory guidelines for banks, universities, people who are dealing with other people's NPI and PII and things of that nature. And then off the back end, you have private companies coming in and like you work for the federal government. I work currently in the private sector, right? So I see a lot of companies come to us for consulting, like, hey, we see things are changing, so we want to not get struck like recently GLBA changed, right? So you have a lot of universities and things of that nature who have new FTC guidance where it's like, hey, I don't want to get slapped with a $10,000 fine per fine if we mishandle information. So what can you do to help us strengthen our policy? What can you do to help us be more in line with, in this case, be the 800, 171? Like, what do we need to do to make sure we're ahead of the game when these regulations hit? I think it was June 9th for those new regulations. So I believe this to be a good thing. Instead of you getting hit on the back end, you're already in the game. You already understand, like, okay, this is coming down the pipe, as opposed to a few weeks before it happens, you're trying to get your ducks in a row to make sure that you're not going to get slammed in some regard. So I think it's a good rally call. Hopefully, more companies take the ball and run with it. I don't think it's going to be necessarily those smaller companies. It'll be probably bigger, enterprises like your $1 trillion companies, your Microsofts, your Apples, things of that nature first. But then all their subsidiaries, the smaller companies that fall behind them, will have a better lead when it comes to what's coming down the pipe, as opposed to having to react once a press release comes out. Like the White House pushes out a memorandum saying, hey, this is coming, as opposed to you already have been in a conference or a webinar or something that you got the tell ahead of time. So I think it's going to be a good thing. Will it last between administrations? That's to be seen. However, it seems as though, regardless of party or partisan or what have you, that the White House is opening up to being more transparent, so to speak, when it comes to working with the private sector. Because I want to say this administration has been hitting it pretty hard. I know Homeland's more involved. I know that the Department of Transportation is more involved, things of that nature. And the administration before that one, they actually had your Zuckerbergs and your Elons and all that show up to the White House to discuss things. So I think it's positive change for the future. So I think a lot of good will come out of it. Because again, a lot of these regulations are changing the way that private sector does business when it comes to healthcare. Again, like universities and how they interact with people's MPI. And I know there's a 853 Rev 4. I want to say, I could be wrong. Change coming up. There's a FISMA rules change coming up. Like, there's lots of stuff coming down the pipe. So it'd be good to get ahead of it.
Well, Rev 5 is out there, but
Is there a Rev 5? Okay.
Rev 5
Yeah.
is out there, but implementation is it's a little slow going. It's been out there for a couple of years actually, but
Yeah, and we talked about it a couple weeks ago. The whole AI. So there's a NIST AI RMF out there as well. That's kind of like in its draft, and then the EU just passed regulation for the AI. I keep wanting to make it more complicated than it is. I think it's just called like the AI regulation or something like that.
yeah, it's like Artificial Intelligence Act or something like
Yeah,
that.
there you go. Yeah, it's very simple AI Act that just passed, and then that's going to impact the world, right? Because like when the EU pushed GDPR, it impacted everybody as well. Like, we're no longer the internet's opened the world up, right? So like we're even if you don't have specific EU business, you probably have EU customers. So then this is going to impact you. So yeah, it's just good to have that full transparency and then have them weigh in as well, because you have companies right now trying to figure out like how we're going to implement AI. And oh, by the way, now there's new laws and regulations down the pipe as well. So whatever we've already implemented may have to be adjusted, or there may be a chance to push back to the government and say, hey, no, we want to do things this way, or we feel this would be more secure, or we can make advances in this direction if you would ease up here, right? So then they have the ability to lobby. So we'll see.
So you actually brought up a point I want to hit on as well when you're talking about the $1 trillion companies getting in on this early, but you kind of mentioned the mom and pops, right? And my hope is that they don't. I don't want to say like push them out, but I'm hoping they don't make it too prohibitive to where they just can't keep up, right? Because like I've seen that before in Congress, actually, where they'll do this sometimes. Like they'll make a law that they know the little, hotels can't keep up with, right? Like, hey, you have to have this, and this. Well, a small chain can't keep up with that, but your Hiltons and your Marriotts can, you know what I mean? Like stuff like
Right.
that. I'm hoping they don't go that route. I want it to be, and again, you do have to keep safety in mind, right? Like cybersecurity in mind when you do these things. But I'm hoping it's to a point where even the smaller companies, right? Some startup with someone who it could be me and you, Ryan, starting up our own cybersecurity company, you know what I mean? Like we could still get on board, you know what I mean? When Williams Tynes
There
cyber
you go.
comes up or whatever, you know what I mean? So like we can keep up with the rules as they are, right? And you don't have to be one of these $1 trillion companies, you know what I mean? You got, I think Apple's about to hit 3 trillion or something like that now, right? I thought I
Something
crazy.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So like you shouldn't make it to where they can't keep up as well because they do have something to offer, right? It's kind of like diversity. Get everybody in the room, right?
Yeah.
Big guys are thinking at this level, but you got the little guys down here that are like, well, hey, here's something you've probably forgotten about since you started up in 1978,
Right.
Microsoft. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, that's a good. You brought it up, and you brought it up real quick, and it made me think. I was like, yeah, I know that does happen sometimes where little guys get priced out or rules become too prohibitive for them to
Right. That's very true. So hopefully, it's going to be open, transparent, and everybody will be able to get a seat at the table when this starts to happen more frequently. Because I mean, at the current pace that we're at, like we're already behind, especially with the AI stuff, right? So we can't really, hopefully, we can't really push people out, even though Microsoft has this Copilot and all that other good stuff coming down the pipe. So we'll see. I mean, if they want to continue to grow and become multi-trillion dollar companies, that's where acquisitions come from, right? And like you can't necessarily grow those within. Though those that's a company who has people who are thought leaders or trendsetters or what have you that get acquired, which kind of sucks. But I mean, it's the way things are. Like Williams and Tynes, like they can buy that. They want to buy that for $1 trillion. Go ahead. But we will see as things continue to come down the pipe. But no, I think it's a good conversation. This could actually have been a discussion, but I don't know. Like this week has a lot of good topics, so definitely continue to tune in. So Monday and Tuesday are topics. Wednesday's discussion. Thursday, I believe I do have an interview set up, so definitely tune in for that one with Daryl Brooks. Um, or yeah, I believe it'll be Daryl Brooks this week. So that'd be really cool. Ask us SP. So definitely tune in for that one. And then Friday's everything else. So I know me and Shannon have been watching stuff, reading stuff, listening to stuff. So definitely tune in for that one. Share with your friends. Hit the button if there's a button associated to subscribe. Hit us up hit us up on all of the sites that go by our name. You can me personally. I'm at RyRy Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy. I am on LinkedIn, Clubhouse, Twitter, and Threads. There it is. I'm new. So stay safe, stay secure.